You want to continue to improve. I want to continue to massage these to make them better every year. And we've already done that. We've gone back now and gone back into some of our equipment, even in the last 2 months, and made some upgrades. The other ones are good, don't be wrong. But as we're progressing through, we're going to make them better because we can. My main focus is our HIT community, bar none. It just is.
Amen.
Because that's where I see this having to go. The HIT community is what's going to really change the world over the next 10 years because, and I've seen it grow since I've had this for 25 years. People are tired of going to gyms, getting nothing out of them.
Lawrence Snell here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for elevating your HIT business and fueling your passion for high intensity training. This is episode 451, and today's guest is again the founder of Imagine Strength, Jeff Turner. And we've had lots of questions following recent podcasts and on the content that we've published all over the internet, primarily, social media and YouTube. Jeff has kindly produced and we've published a bunch of videos of him demonstrating different machines and giving sort of an overview of the features and benefits of each one. So really what we're trying to do here is just answer questions that we feel have not yet been answered through this podcast. But there is I feel in terms of like what we've covered so far, we've got quite a comprehensive coverage of all the concerns and questions about Imagine Strength across all the content we've done, Jeff. So I'm pleased about that, but hopefully we can do even more today. So again, if you want to have access to the polls in the future, when I reach out to my email list and ask for if anyone's got any questions about Imagine Strength or any of the guests we have on the show, please let me know. You can email me directly, lawrence@highintensitybusiness.com. And you can go to highintensitybusiness.com/contact and just message me through that. And I'll add you to the list for future stuff. We also send lots of interesting emails about other things as well. So, Jeff, let's get straight into the questions. So the first one I want to ask you is goes like this. So it's if I'm on a budget and only have the capital for 4 machines, what would be your recommendation? This assumes I have a clientele who are on average 40 years and over, have no major orthopedic issues outside the norm. And I also have access to TRX and dumbbells, so TRX like a suspension trainer, to make up for lack of machines when necessary. So they're looking for more of a minimalist footprint of Imagine machines. What would you suggest?
Well, and we all have gone through this in our brains multiple times. What would we do if we put somebody on 5 exercises? Because a lot of times, a lot of our HIT studios, we do 5 to 6 exercises when they come in. So we have to narrow that down anyway. We've done that from the beginning. And the important part is the fact that we don't do a lot of rotary movements, bicep, tricep, especially at the beginning. So really, it's not a difficult fit because we got to have a push-pull, for upper body. So we have a chest press, a row or a pull down, a torso arm, a leg press. And I would typically either shoot for an abdominal or lumbar. But probably an abdominal because that's what your clients are going to ask for when they first come in. And as you grow and you start to make money, you get a return on investment. You can add a machine here or there and fill out the needs of your clients more. But it's really not that hard because you're going to need the overall the full body, and it's going to be a press, a pull, and another press, and then you pretty much got it. Then either, like I said, a lumbar or abdominal. But I would suggest an ab machine to start with, because they're going to ask for it.
Interesting. What about, when you say another press there, are you talking about a leg press potentially?
Yeah, I would suggest you got to have a leg press, even if you're going to try to do TRX or you're going to have a number of people that are so frail. Well, at least in my studio, I do that they couldn't do a TRX. They just can't do it. So we got to have something we can put them on that's very stable and be able to work around their knee joint and hip joints.
Yeah. Okay. I guess just to clarify, this is for a 40-year plus clientele, no major orthopedic issues. So I'm assuming we are sort of looking at a younger, middle-aged group of individuals. So I guess, but even with that, it probably makes sense if you can only narrow it down to 4 pieces based on what you said, to have abdominal, leg press, chest press, pull down. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Either
or lumbar.
Either a row or a pull down of some type. Like we have a torso arm pull down, which I like a lot, but I think the row is a better fit to begin with. The row, because they can sit, and again, you're talking about people that are in between 40 and 50 years old, so they can do either one. But ultimately, if you get more people coming in your door that are above, 55 and 60, it's very simple to sit down and do a pull. Harder to put your hands overhead, shoulder issues, everything. We've got a lot of that going on. So but we need to work, if you do a pull, any kind of pull down a row, you got biceps, you even got some tricep, you got, rear delt, you got back. So you got a whole bunch of tissue being used in one movement. Same thing with leg press and chest press. So you pretty much cover most of the large muscle groups that are being used, and we can facilitate a really good workout and be very stable in that, you know what I mean? And not have to worry about, but then again, with the abdominal structure, I would rather have a lumbar myself, doing a low back, just because that's where we have the need so much. People think they need to have abdominals more than they do, low back, but it's really the other way around, of course, because we have so many issues with lumbar and getting very, very weak. We don't use it like we used to, but people are going to ask, to do how do I work my abdominals? I'm going to work my abdominals. So that's why we have it. I want to tell a little story real quick, but Arthur originally wasn't going to build an abdominal machine. The pullover is a really good example of an abdominal machine as you come over and squeeze into your tuck. But they asked for it, so he built it, and guess what? It ended up being their hottest seller.
Really?
So yeah,
well, actually, that shouldn't be a surprise, should it? Because the illusion of spot reduction, right?
But all your clients coming in, what are they all focused on? 6-pack abs. Anyway.
It's the funniest thing, isn't it? You can sit there. The amount of times I sat there, I sort of learned from this, but you can sit there and to a client and say, "Hey, look, abs are made in the kitchen. This really isn't going to make a huge difference. You're probably going to get a lot of abdominal stimulation from the pull down and other movements you're doing anyway. This is not superfluous, but it's not going to have the impact you think." And yet they still, it's more almost like a visceral thing. Like when you work your abs really hard and you come off it, you feel that burn, especially the DOMs in the abdominal wall the next day are really obviously can be, really obvious. And
they feel like they've done something. They feel like they're making strides in their program,
Yeah. It's a weird one. But you feel like, so the reason you're suggesting people buy an ab crunch is primarily this desire, for weight loss around the midsection, or just having some sort of the feeling that they're doing something to their midsection? Yeah. Is that what you're?
Well, they think you're sitting there getting that spot reduction. So if I do my abdominal stretch, just like women in the hip, we have an abduction adduction machine that we have. We don't have a combo unit. We have separate ones, but I get asked constantly. I mean, the first thing that women want to do is what? Work their hips.
Sure.
So I tell people if they can, I put an abduction in there, an abdominal in there, and then those 3 pieces. So there you have 5 to 6 pieces, and that's a pretty good little complement of exercises. But you can fit the quote needs that these people walking in your door think they got to have. Right. And then as you build them into clients, you can teach them things. You can teach them more about spot reduction and those kind of things, because at first you don't have a voice. You don't have a voice to them until you can prove who you are, what we're doing, it takes a bit. So, those kind of things are important to think about who your market is and what they're asking for. That's why it's so important to understand sales.
So what we're kind of saying here is use the ab crunch as a Trojan horse to get the rest of the medicine into them.
Absolutely. You use it as years ago when I worked for Nautilus, one of the things, I wasn't a big fan of the weight assist chin and dip until I started seeing it used inside facilities. Okay. All of a sudden, it became a very hot sales tool. When you walk somebody through your gym that's 55 years old and you have a chin and dip, you go, here, try this machine. Let's do a chin up. Oh, I can't do chin up. I haven't been able to do chin ups in 25 years. You put a lot of weight on there to help them and assist them, and they do a chin up. They go, I can do a chin up. Well, you just sold them. So it's a good sales tool. You're meeting that need that your client thinks they got to have. And then you can complement around it as you grow, because first thing you've got to do is make sales. You got to get people in there to pay you monthly. Otherwise you're not going to keep your business open. So you got to think about, okay, what's the most important needs at the beginning, even though it may not be a necessary need, but you've got to build your business. Then you can add around.
So just let me throw you a slight curveball here. So you can get a great abdominal stimulus and feel and burn, especially if it's like novel. When you grab someone, have them anchor their feet under a bench, have them come up into a sit-up, maybe loaded with like a weight across their chest, and have them just do like the negative or accentuate the negative to like a 10-second lowering. Another thing you can do, like just body weight, if someone's particularly fit and strong is you can use manual resistance, right? And push them down.
Yes.
These types of things, if they've done them before, they're going to have major DOMs around the midsection the next day and really feel it. The reason I bring that up as an alternative is that then frees up capital for another machine. So you're
Yeah.
hitting that midsection with.
Yeah, if you're going to have a way to be able to do some freehand and also be able to, the thing I don't like about some of those freehand things is it's very difficult to quantify what you're doing.
So,
You know,
okay,
you
so
divide
that's
it
why
down
you would,
and you're getting, but that said, that's not the client. They don't care about that. What they care about is what do they feel. So if you can do it on the floor and they can get down on the floor, get back up without paying free, then you can do that. But if you have people walking your door that can't do that, then you're going to do the story.
Yeah,
But,
okay,
yeah,
I see what you're
absolutely.
saying. Yeah,
Then I would
it's easy
suggest
to get into a
you can
crunch.
get another machine that, like a lumbar or a neck or cervical spine even, it was good. Because those are the things over the last 25 years that we have seen every single day, or those things, lumbar, neck, shoulders, hip. So, you're going to kind of think who are your market, who are you seeing, and who do you want to expand into? Because you don't want to stay stagnant either. And that's the thing that I'm sure Luke and everybody else has talked about. You want to continue to improve. Well, Walt Disney, for example, you plus the system. You continually plus what you do with your customer, and they keep coming back and they get excited and they tell other people about you. So yeah,
so my kids are addicted to Disney, so they're making their money, loads of money through that.
I grew up that way.
Yeah, it's you make a good point actually. Something I guess I hadn't really factored in, which is the older clientele. I know this individual's been specific about demographic, but at the end of the day, you are going to be serving people who are older than that probably as well. And if you've got a machine, it's going to be way more accessible because your machine in particular is great for all ages. And you've really thought that through in your design. So great stuff. That was a great answer. All right. So moving on to, I guess, more business vision like questions. It covered this a little bit before, but I just wanted to ask you to really elaborate to help people understand what's unique about Imagine Strength. So your tagline is safe, simple, and effective. And I always feel like a fourth one is, and it lasts for a lifetime. Can you just elaborate on like those points? What makes Imagine Strength machines different to all the rest of the machines on the market?
Well, first, that's one thing I do. It's kind of nice to. I'm glad you asked that because I want to kind of address. That's one thing we're not saying is that we're better. Necessarily than MedX or anybody else. That's not. I love MedX. I love Nautilus, especially the older company Nautilus back in the day when I worked for them before I left, before Direct Focus bought us back when Nautilus was concept driven. MedX is concept driven, and so are we. That makes us, all three of us, basically different. Nautilus is fallen out of that, but MedX and us are still basically driven by concept of how you train on. What we've done is trying to increase the tool to the markets. In other words, so making it very safe around muscle and joint function. So we have that new adaptive drive that changes the axis of rotation around a joint. Those things are very, very important. And Thor, Mike Swanson, who is my a friend and engineer that's come up with that, is very important for us to do safe and effective exercise, right? Around muscle and joint function. So if we want to extrapolate that out, that's where that axis of rotation came from. We're trying to find ways to make exercise safer, especially those who have issues already. Because a lot of the people we're going to see already have had issues or had, tears or whatever. But if you look at simple, it's got to be ease of use. So we were, and I know later on we're going to hit on this topic probably, but there's multiple different modalities of exercise and protocols out there. Well, you got to find something that's simple and safe for them to do. And that's what we want to be able to do, like the adjustable movement arms, we haven't had before, the adjustable seats that we haven't had before on different exercises, the adaptive drive, the ability to start and stop a weight stack in any position. We can literally we can literally take this weight stack here and pin it up to here, and you have an inch range of motion. We can pin it all the way down. So we have the ability to work around somebody's own condition when they walk in the door. And those are the things. So they got to be good tools, but they got to be safe and effective tools. And we know that resistance in proper form will create huge results. Give you back way more than you put into it. Well, but if you hurt somebody, that's a different story. And if it's too complicated, they won't come back. Mm-hmm. Another thing is I wanted to stay away from, and these are other companies that do this, but electronics. I didn't want to get out into the electronics and all that. Over the years, I've been involved with a number of those as they've been built, and the clients don't care. So we're spending a lot of money, unfortunately, on things that the clients don't care about that feedback. It makes it look cool to us. We got all these little electronic gadgets and things we can do, but clients don't care. They want to know how it's going to affect me and where's my results. So we stayed away from that to make them less complicated and more for them.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. And lasting a lifetime, can you speak on that side of it as well? Yeah.
Well, we one of the things, of course, is using bearings, different bearings, and we oil impregnated bushings for the guide rods and different things. They should last forever. You're going to have, over time, you might have a belt that might wear or something like that. But even the belts are overbuilt in a sense that they're rated for much higher resistance and going over pulleys many more times than what we use them for. But you can always have that happen. But yeah, the only thing you may have to work on you may have a bearing go bad someday because in the build somewhere that something happened. But most of they should last forever. Just like the old Nautilus. I got some old Nautilus in here from '70s, and we're still using them. Now I had to go back and rebuild them and update them, but they're still being used. So our frames and our machines should last you a good long time.
Excellent. Okay.
Probably longer than you want to be in the business.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So moving on to some other questions here. Does Imagine Strength have any plans to make inroads into the orthopedic rehabilitation or sports conditioning fields? If so, how?
Well, as of right now, we haven't crossed that bridge, or right now they can be used in orthopedic. If we have the 2-pound weight stack, you can start with almost no resistance. But our lowest starting level of resistance on our machines right now is about 20 pounds, right? 22 pounds. And so that may be too much in some physical rehab coming out of injury right off the bat. So, that's why they use bands. And what I found anyway, and I worked for a couple of different companies, including Nautilus, with the medical aspect to it. And it's very difficult to get them to buy equipment because they can do the same thing with dumbbells that cost them $2.
Interesting.
We're spending $5,000 on a machine, right? And it's at a $5,000 machine that is specific to that joint. So now you have to have 10 of them. See what I mean? So when I can go out and buy rubber bands and do this, they don't purchase. So it's not something I'm going to jump right into. If we have a need, what we'll do is redo the weight stack. And we'll probably, and we have planned, we talked about this. We would change the weight stack into, some have aluminum plates and you adjust so the resistance, the starting level resistance is much lighter. Something like that. But yeah, we can certainly get into it. But right now, I don't have any plans to do that. My main focus is our HIIT community, bar none. It just is.
Amen.
Because that's where I see this having to go. And that's my belief in this vision is that the HIIT community is what's going to really change the world over the next 10 years. Because I've seen it grow since I've had this for 25 years. And there's more and more of these because people are tired of going to gyms getting nothing out of them. In our market of 40 and above, they have the money, the time, but they don't have the know-how. And they want to see this. They want you to help them get return. They'll pay you the money. It's like, again, we talked about this. Women will go out and spend $1,000 on a 1-ounce bottle of cream to get rid of the wrinkles. I can guarantee you, if you speak the right language, and I believe that this is what we should do. You talk about the age-defying exercise. We're going to keep people young so when they're ready to retire and play, they can do it. And that's where I believe we're going. And that's what I'm trying to focus everything we have right now is into that market.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Do you ever,
that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. I think it's smart. Most people will hopefully be familiar with, if you try to be all things to all people, you will fail. Like if you try and modify these machines so that you start catering for the needs of all these other fitness and, health and fitness niches and wellness niches, you'll really dilute the value to any one particular market. But it's interesting because, Jeff, top of your head, how many high intensity training studios, or should we say businesses? So if obviously some of our colleagues might have, you look at like the Perfect Workout, they've almost got 80 locations, right? So if we just stick to like businesses, how many HIIT businesses do you think there are globally?
Off my hand, it's interesting you asked that because, I've got a new distributor in Australia and they have almost zero in Australia. They're beginning that movement. China has none, so you start looking around, it's, there's United States right now has more than anybody, of course, but I would say probably 1,500, 2,000.
I think you're probably very close. I've asked that question to so many very knowledgeable people in our space, and no one really knows. And sometimes I wonder if I'm a good, I guess, I don't say indicator or yeah, I'm not sure the right word is, but I obviously I see a lot of people who are not in this business who want to get into it, right? So they're thinking about how do they start up, right? And they've normally had a career in something completely different. And obviously a lot of, new franchisees for the likes of the different high intensity training franchises out there are of a similar type, right? People that have had success in banking or recruitment or whatever, and a passion for exercise and invest in HIIT. So you're seeing growth there. I mean, obviously the boutique fitness industry, which isn't just obviously high intensity training studios, it's lots of focused niche fitness businesses, is growing rapidly, right? The data
Yeah.
on that seems quite clear. Don't know what it is in the last year or so, but I looked at data, I think going up to like 2021, and it was very positive. I need to double check what it is more recently, but I'm assuming it's still probably quite good. But it's interesting no one's got very clear data, obviously, on like that,
Yeah,
specifically the high intensity training niche, which
exactly. Yeah.
and
Well,
obviously
what's
we all
interesting,
go ahead.
sorry, I
That's
didn't
okay.
cut you out there, but what's interesting is in the last 4 years here where I live, we have about 250,000 people in the tri-state area or tri-city area. And we've had two of the major companies come in, open up their big clubs, and they're gone.
Yeah.
They didn't make it because they're all buying. There's something to think about when you're looking at this business. They're all buying for the same dollar. Each one is trying to take people from that club to bring them
Right.
over here. We don't do that. I could exist right next to them because what we do is absolutely different. We're much more clinically driven, and people who have issues want to come in here and not be watched being trained. And so we have a really good niche if we go after it, we do it correctly.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's interesting, isn't it? Because the argument I think a lot of us make in this space is, oh, it's still single digit percentage of the population engaged in resistance training. That's a huge problem, right? And then it's easy to look at, I guess, you see the likes of Discover Strength and Aurum Fit over in Switzerland, and the Perfect Workout. They're growing like crazy. They're all opening loads of locations. So you look at that data point and you think, oh, it must be growing. But if I'm being really honest with myself, is the high intensity training market growing on net, right? Because obviously there's probably, studios going out of business and that kind of thing. Who knows? Who knows? But the thing we do know is that this is a very smart business and it's enormously impactful in terms of helping transform people's lives. And it's a great business. Like it can, generate a lot of revenue as well. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you, Jeff, because I'm just always trying to learn more about where the industry is going, I suppose. So just along those lines as well, another question here is, do you have any plans for a contemporary or polished online presence like on YouTube or Instagram, etc., to expand outside the cottage industry of nostalgic HIIT trainers and studios? So it's a similar question, but this individual is asking if you have thought about other markets, maybe, I guess, going on from my last point about, is there a limit to the high intensity training niche? Maybe there isn't. Maybe that's plenty of business. And do you have your eyes on any other adjacent markets that would really value your equipment? And yeah, so maybe I'll ask that question first.
Probably, and this is of course preliminary, and Thor and I was the engineer, Thor Swanson, who's absolutely a very creative and very good engineer, by the way. Like Clay, him and Clay have worked together many years. And of course, Clay Seppi is still my go-to guy. But anyway, long story short is that we have talked about adapting these to a play-loaded version, only because I had been asked that multiple times about if we're going to do a play-loaded version. It's because I guess they figure that the cost will be cheaper, off the weight stack, so they can, But for school systems, schools, colleges, those kind of things. Maybe even in athletics. I'm not a big fan of doing athletic stuff because that's a whole different ballgame. I want to get into that, but our main thing is if we could get into it, it wouldn't be a bad idea to be able to actually have proper exercise for younger kids, for younger bodies, so we don't hurt them coming through what they're getting training for football or training for whatever. We create play-loaded versions that the school will buy, but they're right around muscle and joint function. They're correct exercise for that body. But that's about all we've talked about. Truthfully, we have not gone way past because I don't want to yet, because we're not at that point. I want to focus on
Absolutely.
who these guys are, who you guys are. I got to focus on that because I want to continue to massage these to make them better every year, every month. And we've already done that. We've gone back now and gone back into some of our equipment, even in the last 2 months, and made some upgrades. The other ones are good, don't be wrong. But as we're progressing through, we're going to make them better because we can. We can do it within 24 hours. We literally have people. I mean, we're on this right now. We're not just sitting and going, okay, hey, you guys buy this stuff. No, we want to make it the product that we want to be proud of.
Yeah.
We want you guys to be proud of.
I think you nailed it. And I think that, absolutely stay focused. I think that's really important. And I love how you're doing
now.
that.
I've been with companies and with Nautilus for one, we had 35 pieces just in the next generation line alone when I was there. And it was convoluted. Nobody bought some of the clinical pieces. We used to have a reverse pullover. You ever seen a reverse pullover?
No, I don't think I have.
People need to go do a search and see a reverse pullover. Very interesting machine. It didn't sell and it hurt people, but you go this way, you push up and back. Well, if you have bad shoulders, it was a difficult thing to do, but it's very interesting. But we don't need to go into that. We don't need to go expand into that and go and lose our focus into what our everyday clients, our customers are dealing with every day. What do we have to do to help you make more money?
Yeah. And the saying goes that, when you identify your target market in any business and you build a business for them, you design it for them, you still get interest outside of that. Your target market is not your total market, which is great. It just helps, helps bring in extra, helps top things up, I guess. And I think that's what people are concerned about when they start a business and they build it for a particular market. They think, I'm going to alienate all these other people. And it's like, well, you're going to alienate everyone if you try and build it for everyone. So choose your approach. But with all of that said, I'm assuming you're getting a lot of interest within HIT, but are you getting much interest outside? And if so, what types of organizations are approaching you about the machines outside of the high intensity training industry, if anyone, at this stage?
Actually, I don't think I've had anybody from a club system or anything else looking at what we're doing. It's very interesting because, one, I think a lot of these club systems are struggling to figure out who they are. What do we do now? How do we get more people on but what they should be doing is looking at creating a club within a club system. They should be putting a high intensity studio inside their club. They should take 800 square feet and build a little club within a club, and they can literally, from their own market they have, literally create a new market for themselves and make more revenue. But it's difficult to get people to want to do that because they got to spend money up front. But no, I don't have anybody, in these big club systems there. And that's because they're not driven by whether you show up. They don't want you coming in. Most of them don't want you coming in. They want you to stay home so they can just continue to bill your credit card. Yeah, and we don't do that in high intensity. That's another reason why I like our market. We're much different than that. We people only pay if they come. There's a big difference.
Yeah. Good point. All right. So, it's funny they mentioned about polished online presence. Obviously, I do my best to be polished with the features that you make. And obviously you do most of the work, Jeff. We just edit it after the fact. And obviously we publish it, but are you thinking of having dedicated channels as well in the future, social media channels, etc.?
The guys that I work with, Mike and different ones have asked, we should do our own, YouTube channel and training on each machine and those kind of things. And that's a possibility. I'm not sure that people want to hear me talk more necessarily or do that. So maybe we do it, maybe we don't. The thing is that in our community, we have very, very intelligent people. They're very, very schooled. They know what they want. They know pretty much how to exercise. They know how to use the machines. Me teaching them what, so I have that conflict because I've been in this a long, long time. And I don't go out and research out as much as I used to because guess what? Our joints haven't changed in a few years. So, we're still working with tools that work around those muscle and joint functional things. But most of these guys could probably teach me a few things, so it's hard for me to want to go out and say that I teach them how to, specifically on our equipment. Yeah, I show the features and benefits that we're doing. Sure. But maybe we'll get to that point if people, continue to ask for it if they want. I just don't know how effective that will be getting people to actually come see it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It hasn't been a big plan yet, but yeah, we'd like to have some training videos just to go along with the equipment. Whenever we sell a package of equipment, they can go, either give them the videos or, links to videos if they want to go refer back and train a trainer up there. This is how you use this piece. This is how you set it up. So yes, a setup video, those kind of things. Training videos, I don't know about that.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. So just, another question here actually on, this is about, what is this? Okay. So why did manufacturers like Life Fitness thrive, whereas companies like Nautilus and MedX are shells of their former selves or non-existent? How will Imagine Strength avoid the same fate?
I think pretty much we've covered a little bit of that in the fact of the niche market. The niche market makes a big difference because again, our group is intelligent. They know what they want and they know what they're looking for. And that's what I'm building the tools around is what they're asking, right? So they're not going to go out and buy those other tools because they want to. And again, anything is susceptible to losing money, of course. This is one reason why you see it is very casual. I'm not spending a bunch of money on marketing and a bunch of money out there on doing shows or these, because you lose we spent over $500,000 every time we went to Ursa at Nautilus, and we never got that money back. We never did $100,000 of sales at Ursa. We never did we didn't sell anything hardly. So
brand awareness.
So what we have to do is do what we're doing here. I'm just like they are. I'm no different than anybody else out there right now. I'm building a tool right now that I can use in my own studio. That's it. And so I don't want to be that, some lofty equipment manufacturer up here like Life Fitness. They're a massive brand that they've got multiple different revenue streams. We have one. So I want that to stay that way for now because this is who we're dedicated to. And we have very, very intelligent people out there. And we don't have to make a ton of money. We don't have any debt. Yeah. So that's another reason. We have no debt. So people ask me, why are you working out of China? That's why. Because these people are partners with me in doing this. So these are friends of mine. These are people I've known for years. And, we have no debt. And that's why we can change equipment and adapt it and make it better as we go along very, very quickly. We're not just throwing out a piece of equipment. Well, yeah, that's good enough. Boom, there you go. Our equipment is much different than Life Fitness or anybody else that's out there for a reason. But it's because of the customer. Again, intelligent tools for intelligent people.
I like it. That could be your tagline or something similar. Yeah. I know you've already got your tagline. An additional tagline.
There's another one.
Very good. All right. So some more technical questions, and we'll just see how many of these we can get through. We do need to obviously wrap up in about 10 minutes or so. Okay. Perhaps a phase 2 for Imagine Strength might include a line of compound function machines. Oh, we already talked about this one, didn't we? They referenced the old double chest. So you talked about the previous one about the problems with combo machines and why you guys are not pursuing that.
The ones that we are probably going to look at, and if probably only really that I know of would be one. One is understand that when you start looking at doing a double machine, you have giveaways. So I have the double chest that people had asked about over here in the other side here. And the Nautilus double chest is a pre-exhaust machine that you do, pec fly into a decline, into a chest press. And it's a great machine, but there's giveaways in that machine. It's difficult to get people on and off and on. But I have a decline at the other, which works way better. It's a separate machine than the two. So we have giveaways. So we'll probably do an adduction combo because people are asking for that. But as far as the others, like a leg curl, leg extension, I'm not a big fan of those because typically your strength curves suffer, friction suffers, multiple things like that. So I'd rather have a true tool, something that's more pure than have giveaways. I'm not a big fan of. I think you could find another 4 or 5 feet, to put a machine in and have that and use it separately. And we train 3 or 4 people all the time. You can have a bottleneck. If you have waiting for one machine, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. So I'm not a big fan of doing doubles like we used to.
Got it. All right. Good answer. I think you said something similar before, but that was great. How familiar are you with designs outside of the immediate Arthur Jones sphere of influence, like those from David Health or designs from Prime? I think Strive, Prime are the same company, I believe, or owned by the same company. And how have these different machine providers inspired you or Clay at all?
Well, with us, for example, Strive, I'm pretty familiar with Thrive. I used to train on a few pieces we used to have at another club in town. It was a good concept, but it didn't, it was a concept, unfortunately, that didn't take off because, again, the consumer in a regular club doesn't understand them. They're not going to understand them unless you train them to understand them. And that's a difficult process when you have to spend money on your people on the floor to train people when you're not getting any more return. So if you don't have personal training, that's the thing. So in a training situation, I'm not sure there's any major benefit to doing a Strive type machine, we want people in and out, getting them strong very, very quickly. So our whole point is ultimately what causes hypertrophy, what causes muscles to change and bones to change. And that's effort. So how you get to that point, I want to make it as efficient as possible, how quickly and as efficient as possible. So I don't want to throw we talk about electronics and those kind of things. I don't want to introduce something that isn't really going to give me a better return for my customer and or for myself. I'm going to spend more money on things that I'm not going to get necessary return on. So that's kind of where we're looking at this. We're trying to keep it as much simple and effective as much as we can. I want to stay true to that form. So we don't have a lot of, they have influence just because strength curves, different things, you look at, but you can map a strength curve mathematically and tell what's happening in a knee or an elbow joint. And that's where Clay has had, 40 years of doing this. He's extremely knowledgeable at what he does.
I mean, he's worked across so many brands, right? He's worked across Hammer, like Clay's Hammer, MedX, Exobotics, everything. Yeah.
He's worked for a number of them, and he's had to give away, on those, depending on what the boss is asking for. But I mean, that guy, he knows his stuff. I mean, he's very, very good. In fact, right now we're working on a new leg press. We're going to have 2 different leg presses because there's people that want 2 different. So I'll bring that out later. I'll show you, but we got another leg press we're working on right now.
Stay tuned for leg press. The next
so
leg
we have
press.
about 6 more machines we're working on right now.
Very cool. Feeling sad right now that I didn't get to talk to Clay very much at Rec. He was very busy all the time, like tightening bolts and modifying machines when we were at the conference. So I didn't really make a lot of time to speak to him, unfortunately.
He's got we just sent him all the prototypes. He's got about 10 or 12 prototypes sitting in his house right now playing with them.
Oh, wow. And what about the David Health machines? Are you familiar with the David machines?
I've only used 2 different Davids. I really been impressed with what they've done.
Right.
David is a very good line of equipment, I believe. They're not cheap by any means, but they have been, they're kind of right in there with what we're trying to do. They're very, very good. There's not a huge presence in the United States of David. And again, unfortunately, they're expensive and it costs a lot to ship and on. And so it makes it less affordable for people or appealing to different customers, But I have no problem with, like I said, with a number of these companies. They're very good. They all have their ideas of what they want to put out there. And I'm certainly not going to knock anybody's product by any means, because I don't think, we could always improve. I don't think I'm the be all end all by any either. I don't think I know everything by any means. I learn from all my mentors. And that's what I want to continue to do.
All right. And kind of, I think we talked a little bit about this off air just now. So what's your opinion on motorized resistance and what makes the quote unquote old school, I'm not sure if you'll like that label, type of machines better or not? And let's answer that first. There's another question, but it's a big one. So yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, again, you get into that where, ours is better than theirs. And I'm not sure. Again, your body doesn't care where the resistance comes from as long as it's safe, and especially the effort comes from, because, you got to train hard, and motorized machines can make you do that. It can, if you can get the client to understand what they're doing. I do believe that there's some problems with it because, I have 40 different pieces of equipment in my studio for variety, for one, and also be able to work around specific additions of joints. And so we have 5 different chest presses in different planes. They different planes. So in case somebody can't do one, I can do another one over here. It's very difficult to do that with a motorized machine. And they usually put them as one has 3 or 4 different exercises in one, or they have multiple exercises. But they do 2 different. Anyway, it's very difficult to have 40 different exercises.
Yeah.
In a motorized machine, or they're very, very expensive, So I also believe that the human body, the mind, tends to want to lift a resistance and feel it move and feel changes in strength curves and feel, I've used many of those. I was actually in on working with a number of them as they were developing them. And I don't want to say who, but they were great. I got some really good workouts, but I would not do it day in and day out. There's no way I would do it. I'm sorry for myself. I want to be able to change my workout. I want to be able to use different machines. I want to, every 6 to 8 weeks, I change my workout up. And it's hard to do that with motorized machines.
Yeah.
I don't
The
know.
point,
And I
go
don't know
ahead,
that
Jeff.
there's a major change in benefit that you're going to get from a motorized machine versus, a typical universal machine or whatever. As long as you're doing it correctly, that's where our customers, the studio owners, this is where they come in, and this is where they engage their people and make a difference. These are tools.
Mhm.
You can make the same amount of money off a cheaper tool than a more expensive tool. That's on that person. It's not the tool is driving the money, not the tool is driving the revenue. It's just not. It's the results of that client coming in your door.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's
Great.
kind of
No,
where I'm at.
yeah, great point. I think that is definitely a shared concern. The idea that people like to see weights go up and down. Um, yeah, it's. I think you make some really good points. I think that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Doing a bicep curl, watching that weight move, but doing it, against the resistance, you can get some good work on it. But is it really? It doesn't seem as satisfying. I know that seems weird, but it doesn't seem the same.
No, I know what you mean. I think because obviously the way they get around that, a lot of these, I don't want to be specific about any brands. There's obviously a few out there. Will use gamification to incentivize the user. Right? They have a screen in front of them and they'll be chasing lines or whatever.
Oh yeah,
And I think the jury's out on whether or not that is a strong enough incentive versus a weight going up and down. Because as companies, again, I won't mention any brands or anything, but there's a company in Europe who are doing exceptionally well and growing very fast, selling franchises that use adaptive resistance technology, motorized resistance. So yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes in the future. And the next question, which is kind of connected to this, is what do you? And this we'll finish on this one, Jeff. It's got to wrap on the hour. What do you believe in the future of personal training and studio ownership looks like in 10 years? Big one, right?
yeah. It's one of those where you got to try to think about: is there going to be a lot of changes in 10 years? I've been doing this for over 25 years now. As far as the studios, we've got 3 or 4 of them out there, and the only thing that's really changed in those 25 years is the people have gotten older. So the people I have been training with for over 20 years, and they continue to come. So they've gotten older. So we modify kind of what we do for that older group. But I don't think in 10 years that it's going to change drastically as far as who we're seeing, but we're going to have to modify who we are to that group, as they age. I myself, this is my opinion, but I really believe it. People are serious about wanting to get into this industry and do this. Don't do athletics and don't do, it's very difficult to make that work. Go after that people of the bedroom community that you live around and who they are. The research shows that most big club systems are 18 to 26. Most of us are 40 and above, the hit studios. So think about bone density, type 2 diabetes. We're going to become more medically driven over the next 10 years, very much so, because all the research coming out is showing that bone density and these have to be driven through actually only us, strength training. Doctors can't do it. Pill can't do it. Running can't do it. Swimming can't do it. We can do it. Only us. Those that are strength training and doing it properly without hurting. That's where I think it's going to continue to grow into that market, more clinically driven exercise, prescription exercise. I hope that's where I would see this going.
Beautifully put. And there's some really interesting stuff coming out from Dr. Stuart Phillips lately. I mean, we've always known there's a aerobic fitness, as a cardio component, obviously, to high intensity training. But the position he's taken lately is actually which I guess a lot of us have known for a while, perhaps, is that there's much more to resistance training than we've previously thought. And in terms of from the scientific community, like there's a lot more benefit, because I think obviously the guidelines, again, I'm butchering this a little bit, I'm sort of paraphrasing, but would have advocated in a lot of Western places, obviously aerobic steady state type activity above resistance training, but the sort of tides are turning and tables are turning on that, and the resistance training is he's sort of putting that now at the forefront, which is really interesting to see and obviously great to see. And yeah, we'll be hopefully connecting with him soon, actually, to see if he wants to come on the show to talk more about that. Jeff, this has been awesome as always. Thank you for making the time. We'll perhaps do another part at some point if we get more questions. And I think we pretty much covered everything. I think there was only one question I think it's time to cover today, and that's okay. But as I said, we've done a lot of content together. So we'll put links in the show notes for this one, to all the podcasts we've done previously, as well as all the content on YouTube. But then you'll be able to literally go to the YouTube content or the podcast and look at the timestamps to find your questions, right? Use Control F, time scales, whatever it is, right? So you can find what you want to know about Imagine Strength through our different pieces of content on the internet. And if you want to learn more about obviously Imagine Strength today, please go to imaginestrength.com and you can obviously contact Jeff and the team and inquire more about products.
We have
Jeff,
a brochure. A brochure is there, and a price sheet is there. We're not hiding anything. That's, we want people to understand that we're just like you.
Perfect. Good stuff. All right. And for everyone listening, to get the show notes for this episode, as I said, please go to highintensitybusiness.com. Just search episode 451. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.